Defence Minister Richard Marles has dismissed any doubts surrounding the Aukus submarine pact. Joining me live is Shadow Assistant Minister for Defence, Phillip Thomas. Phillip, good to see you once again. The Aukus submarine pact review by the Pentagon looks like it's going to be finalised before Anthony Albanese's October 20 White House meeting with Donald Trump. The Defence Minister says Aukus is happening and says the review was about how Aukus can be done better. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think that it wouldn't be no surprise that we support Aukus, the coalition. But how did we get here? We had a prime minister that couldn't meet with the president. We had no confidence from the president in the prime minister, and that's why a review was happening. We do want this to go ahead, but I think it's clear that Hegseth and the president don't have much confidence in our part-time Defence Minister Richard Marles or Pat Conroy, who's more focused on attacking coalition people on social media. But what we need to be doing is making sure that we increase our defence spend. We have the confidence of our deal partners in the UK and the US, and we want to make sure that AUKUS has a seemingly rollout throughout our country and both of theirs.
I'm not sure whether you saw this, but we just had a speech overnight in front of hundreds of US admirals and generals by the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, where he vowed to eliminate woke ideologies he says has infected the US military. Do you think the ADF has a problem with so-called wokeness here in Australia?
Well, when we had Peter Dutton as Defence Minister, that was getting stamped out. I believe that the Australian Defence Force is not a place for any sort of like wokeness or social experiment. We need to have one standard for everyone. We need to make sure that we are combat ready, combat effective, and to make sure that our brave men and women have the tools and the equipment to do their job, which is to fight in and win wars. That's essentially what the role of the ADF is, and we need to make sure that they have those tools and aren't being used for any kind of, gender-neutral toilets or any social experiments. We have brave men and women who needed to be focused on their role, which is to fight.
The Albanese government is supportive of Donald Trump's 20-point peace plan for Gaza. Do you think that that's some common ground between the pair ahead of the meeting in the White House?
Well, I think that the Prime Minister, who may have got a selfie with the President, still hasn't had that sit-down meeting, which is concerning, which means he found out about this plan for the peace talks in Gaza like we all did in the media. So I think that it's definitely the right thing to do to have the President to be leading the charge on these peace talks. We want to see the hostages released. We want to see Hamas lay down their weapons. This is something that I think is widely supported and the rebuild in Gaza starts to take place. It's clear that the Prime Minister has to build and rebuild a relationship with the President here. But what we've seen overnight and with the commentary from the President with his plan, it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the Israelis and it's a good thing for the people of Gaza.
Just finally, Climate Change Authority Chair Matt Keane says a road user charge would discourage the uptake of electric vehicles as the government tries to meet his 2035 emissions reduction target. Do you believe it will, and don't you think the states will just go ahead with it anyway if there's not a national approach?
Well, I'm hoping that there isn't a tax imposed on people because of what kind of car they drive. I have a Toyota Hilux and I drive a Prado. In the regions, we drive utes, and I'd hate to see an extra tax imposed upon people because of some fantasy of a target that this Labor government wants to meet. I don't think having a ute tax or taxing people to use the road is the right move to force them into driving electric vehicles. We see with cigarettes and things like that, what the government doesn't want you to do, they price you out, they tax you up. I'd hate to see that this government put a tax imposed on people to use the road. People are already doing it tough. They don't need to pay more taxes.
And do you ever see a situation where taxes or rising taxes could be placed on petrol cars to meet this emission reduction target?
Once again, I wouldn't like to see a tax imposed on petrol cars. I just think that if the government wants to make whatever targets they're trying to push work, then it's on them to do it without imposing an extra burden or cost on the Australian people. People are already doing it tough. People want to drive the vehicle they choose. People need to have that choice. This isn't a communist country where you get told what you can and can't do. And this government needs to make sure that they are respecting the Australian people and not imposing more taxes on them who just want to get on. People just want to get on with their lives, mate. People don't want a government overreach. Government out of your way, not in your way.
Phillip Thompson, appreciate you coming on the program this morning. Thanks so much.